Welcome back to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor. Really pleased to have with me once again Dr. Quinton Hennigh. He's here today to talk about Eskay Mining, give us an update on the company's drill results that came through on January 19th. Eskay Mining is a company that is exploring a package of rocks that hosts the Eskay Creek mine, which is one of the richest gold silver mines in Canadian history. And from what I'm understanding, my take at least in reading the press releases, is that Eskay Mining may be onto something of a similar kind of deposit. So thank you, Quinton, for joining us today.
Absolutely. This is an absolute pleasure to talk about this story.
Yeah.
I always do.
Yeah, you're very excited about this story. We should mention that you are a director and technical advisor to Eskay. The number of companies that you've been on the board of or advising has decreased as you've now become a full-time advisor for Crescat Capital. And I want to thank you so much for those excellent videos that you put out explaining the many different projects that Crescat has invested in. And there's Eskay Mining, I guess, is certainly one of them, right?
It is our biggest position. That is correct.
Your largest position, Eskay, ESK in Canada, ESKYF in the U.S., 163 million shares out. I think that's a correct number. $2.32 in U.S. money earlier today, at least when I checked it. I don't know. The markets are getting hit pretty hard today. 378 million market cap. So let me ask you, Quinton, about January 19th, Eskay reported assays resulting from, I think, 21 drill holes. This is a project, you get 52,600 hectares. It's a gigantic project. It's south of, but along the same belt of rocks as the Eskay Creek mine. You had 13 holes from the Jeff and 8 holes from the TV. Those are two different targets that are located next to each other. What have you learned so far from the data that, from Mother Earth's secrets that you've gleaned from these drill holes?
Well, this is it's been very interesting to watch the results come in. It's been interesting to see how it's evolved. I mean, the first thing that I would say is we are dealing with a part of the stratigraphy in this region that is a bit new, I guess, to say, to host substantial deposits at this time. We're down in the Betty Creek Formation, so we're stratigraphically we're a bit below the level of the Eskay Creek deposit. Mm-hmm. And what John and his team have discovered is that this system is effectively stacked. Okay, this is a VMS system, so it formed on the bottom of the ocean. And what happened is, over time, and as sediment was being deposited into this basin where this hot spring activity was occurring, you end up producing multiple levels of VMS deposits. Now, this is really interesting, okay, because everybody knows Eskay Creek. Well, that's up at the tippy top of the package. It's up in what we call the contact mudstone, which is at the top of the Hazelton group. Mm-hmm. And now, Skeena, who have the Eskay Creek deposit now, they've been drilling some deeper areas underneath Eskay Creek, and they've actually found new horizons of mineralization. They call one the lower mudstone and one the even lower mudstone. Well, those are lower in the stratigraphy, kind of like what we're seeing here. Okay, so this is very intriguing. We're kind of working from the opposite end of the spectrum, working our way up. Mm-hmm. So here we've already found this absolutely monstrous VMS system at TV and Jeff that does have high precious metals. We've certainly drilled a lot of stock work. We had some absolutely amazing results. For example, in the last news release, we announced just a whopping intercept. I think it was 239 meters of about 2.35 gram per ton gold equivalent. That's immense. I mean, that's like, to put it in perspective, the stock work that underlies the Eskay Creek deposit or is associated with that deposit is only a few tens of meters. I mean, we're talking about something here that's considerably bigger, and we've drilled it along the footprint for quite a ways. People can go to the news release and see the images to see what I mean by that. But it's wide open. It's wide open, particularly to the south and to down dip, into the mountainside itself. This thing is huge. So, we're working our way up. Now, these discoveries are exciting. We also hit massive sulfide late in the season. We're waiting on assays from several holes, I think 3 or 4 holes yet to come back with the massive sulfide intercepts. We'll see what those return. But then, this begs the question, what else do we have here? I think as we work our way up the section, basically up the, think of it like a layer cake. As we work our way to the next layer and to the next layer, I think we're going to find that this system persisted up section, and we're going to find, further VMS here at TV and Jeff. We see just innumerable targets from the SkyTem data. We see lots and lots of what we interpret to be sulfide targets of this type above and along strike, and you can't swing a cat without hitting sulfide here. So it's very exciting.
So that's TV and Jeff. Do you expect? I know there's a whole lot of other targets throughout this massive land package that the company has. Do you expect that? What sort of percentage of this year's exploration work will be devoted to TV and Jeff?
We actually are going to have an aggressive program this year. It's going to be about 35,000 meters of drilling. I would say around half of that will be devoted to TV and Jeff, but like you said, we have to start testing a large inventory of new targets. We did test some of the targets elsewhere on the property last year. We got down to the C10 and the Vermilion area, and we drilled a few holes, I think 6 or 7 holes down in there. Those assays should be coming soon. And then we drilled a few holes along strike or in between TV and Jeff, as there was one hole as well. But we have a lot more to do here. If people who followed our story, they're fully aware of this new discovery that was made up at the northeast corner. It's called Scarlet Ridge, and it is an immense new VMS system that was discovered really through boots on the ground work in September of last year. This one is getting geared up for its first pass drill program this year. We've got I don't know, somewhere on the order of a dozen targets that we'll be testing aside from TV and Jeff with that drilling.
Are you seeing some base metals as well, I guess, right?
Yeah, but the base metals in these particular VMS are not, we'll call it, they're not really of economic interest. Like we're seeing, you see elevated zinc and copper and, other things you might expect in a VMS. You might get a few hundred or even a couple thousand ppm. But these are not the main prize here, nor were they at Eskay Creek either. I mean, silver and gold. The gold was about 45 grams, I think, average head grade, life of mine, and silver was 2,100 grams life of mine. So that's the kind of thing we're looking at. And by the way, one of the things we saw in this recent drilling were some uber high-grade results like that. We saw silver numbers in the, I think, 5,000 gram per ton range. And that was right at the tippy top of the stockwork zone at TV. So, that, in my view, that portends that the massive sulfide deposit above that is going to be pretty dang high grade. So, we're excited. Very exciting.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Have you done any metallurgical work yet up there on any of this material?
We haven't, but we've done a lot of mineralogical work. What that means is we've taken rock samples, polished them up, and then looked at them under the microscope, and we can see that, essentially the mineralization we have is nearly identical to the mineralization Skeena has. Skeena has done extensive metallurgical work in preparation for their PFS, which they announced a few months ago. So our view is we don't necessarily have to do a huge amount of met work, at least at this time. Let's explore. Let's kind of work on this assumption that the met should be very similar to what they see at Skeena based on our observations.
You never get involved, Quinton, in projects, and certainly never would suggest to Crescat they should get involved in something unless you see some very strong technical people in charge of the projects that are really taking charge of the projects. And you have a couple of really good ones there. John DeDecker and then Thomas Monarchy, I think, are two names I've heard you mention. Would you just take perhaps a minute to just talk about them and their skill sets?
Absolutely. Look, John DeDecker is our Vice President Exploration. If you want to see the quality of this guy, go to the presentation he gave at the Roundup conference a few weeks ago. It's actually posted on the Eskay website. It's a full hour presentation, but it will give everybody a clear picture of what the company has and what its plans are going forward. And then Thomas Monarchy, and John is out of the School of Mines. He's a postdoctorate at Colorado School of Mines.
Mm-hmm.
And Thomas Monarchy is a very famous professor at the School of Mines. He's basically now we'll call it the world's leading expert in VMS. He's kind of the next generation of VMS experts out there. And Thomas did his dissertation at Eskay Creek, so he's kind of Mr. Eskay Creek. He basically wrote the book on that system. So with that kind of expertise, we're just primed for discovery.
Oh, that's wonderful. John Rubino and I have been talking about, in fact, we did a video about companies that have a shot at becoming the next Great Bear success. Do you think that Eskay belongs in that category yet?
I would say yes. Like I said, this is our biggest position. We're not taking this one lightly. If you look at the history of the Eskay Creek discovery and the value it created, and the ensuing fight that happened over control over that, Homestake actually wanted it in the end. Look, it was remarkable how much value that returned, and that's the kind of story that I think we're going to deliver here as we drill the massive sulfide at TV this coming season, and then as we test these new targets. If we found another Eskay Creek or two or three in this day and age, it will create tremendous value. Quality is highly sought by the large miners at this point.
Mm-hmm.
This story meets that criteria. So yeah, I guess when you compare it to Great Bear, okay, but maybe we could even do better. I don't know.
Well, Great Bear, of course, we have the benefit now of seeing an awful lot of drilling and exploration. And I didn't add Eskay to my list of 5 just yet because I'd like to see a lot more drill results yet, and I'm sure that's what we'll be seeing this summer. So I'm really looking forward to it. Just before we let you go, Quinton, how well funded is the company, and do they have money in the till to go through with this aggressive drill program this year?
Yeah, the company, I believe, has right around $6 million at present. They are in good position because they have a lot of warrants that are going to get exercised. There's some that expire in June. That will bring money into the treasury. I think the company can get by, but obviously with the precious metal market picking up in interest, if there's opportunity, there might be a need for a raise or reason for a raise. But I don't think it'll be, given the cash position, I think the company's in a very strong state right now.
That's what we want to hear. All right, very good. Well, I guess people should just keep their eyes on drill results, and that it will be, well, not right away. There's a couple that from last year, and then when might they start working up there? Because it's a little bit.
We're going to try to get going early in June this year. They're going to start in some of the lower areas and then work their way up as the snow melts. But we're going to try to get at least 4.5 months, we'll call it, of good drilling in this year to get that 35,000 meters.
Yeah, 35,000 meters in 4 months. That's an aggressive program, but well, it's very exciting, Quinton. Thank you so much for joining us again and bringing us up to date on this one. It's really one we're looking forward to.
Pleasure.